Hello, everyone. My name is Edward Murray, and this is my usability findings review for week 2 of MUX 1309. So, this week we had to build out the prototype for our application idea and do some usability testing with a group of users. So first, I'll just get into the prototype of my app. My app is called Fantasy Fanatic. As you can see here, it kind of goes along the fantasy football niche. So the first tab I have here is NFL News. When the user clicks on it, it will take them to a listing of the most recent headlines for NFL News. I have a box here uh, that will have either video news or maybe one of the big headlining stories, and then some smaller boxes below it that will list any other headlines that go along with it. And then at the top, there's a home button just to go back to the initial page. Then there is a tab for the fantasy players. Um, this will be a listing of news for individual players that you may have on your fantasy team. This way, you can get news for just the players on your team, as opposed to getting a list of news in general for fantasy football, which I think is a really cool idea. There's an add button, and then on the add button, you'll have a list view that'll separate everything by position. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, flex position, defense, and special teams, and a kicker. And there'll also be a search box where you can search by name. And then there's a done button that will take you back to the original page, which is set up kind of like the NFL news page, where it'll just have some headlines. I kind of formatted this one different in the layout just so it's separate from the NFL news. And then there's also a home button at the top left. There's another tab for just general fantasy football news. The idea behind having general fantasy football news is to keep an eye on maybe some players on other teams that aren't on your team, or maybe a fantasy football player that's starting to come into his own and become a fantasy starter for your team. So it's just good to be able to have a connection in general for fantasy football. That way you can keep up with what's going on with other fantasy players. And then the last section is the NFL scoreboard. Go in here, it'll just kind of list all the scores for each NFL game that's currently going on. I didn't really fill any of this with any real content because it's not connected to any kind of API that actually gathers this information. So for now, I just kind of have where each element will go in the application. And then I have just a little note here for users letting them know that the page refreshes automatically. So they don't have to keep refreshing the page to get real-time scores. Down at the bottom, I have kind of a marketing thing where users can spread the word to all their friends. Right now, it just kind of goes to Facebook and Twitter, and that's it. And this one goes to Twitter. And then I have the link for my survey, which is where I got my usability report. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. What is your overall impression of the app? A majority of my users selected good for this. Some of the suggestions I got were kind of prettying it up a little bit. It's kind of bland with just black and gray. I'm not very good at the whole design factor. Was the brand distinguishable from other apps like it? There is one other app out there like it. Kind of goes with the same design function. So a couple of suggestions were to do something a little bit different that separated it from the other app that's out there that's like it, which is called Bleacher Report. How difficult was completing the basic tasks? All of my users said it was very easy to complete the tasks, simply because everything's right there on the main screen. So it was very easy for them to instantly figure out what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go in the app. Um, were the navigation cues easy to interpret? Everybody said yes, um, because again, the way the app is laid out, it's very basic and straightforward. You know everything you have to do. When you go to the fantasy players, there's a big button at the top that says add. You can go home. The one thing I didn't implement is here in the fantasy players to be able to edit it. For instance, if you drop a player off your team, you might not want to continue to receive news updates about that player. So I have to add an edit button in here somewhere that'll allow you to remove that player from your stream. Um, and then what was confusing, if anything, a lot of the users didn't understand that this is just a prototype with minimum functionality. So when they went over to fantasy players and they clicked add, they were wondering why you couldn't actually add a player to it. So I had to go in and explain that it's not done yet. This is just a prototype to kind of give the look and feel of how the app would function. And that's pretty much it. Those are my usability findings. Got some work to do, some revisions to make, maybe pretty it up, add some more functionality, change the branding up so it's a little more distinguishable. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the initial prototype. Hopefully, everybody else had fun with this as much as I did, and I look forward to next week.